friends. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming back. We are on episode 265 of Rush Roundtable. We're working through Snakes and Arrows, and we are now on the song Faithless. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I want to talk about or mention our distinguished panel. I have Alex, Shane, Paul, the token Canadian, and have a joke that
It's all
happened
good.
before we started recording,
It's all good.
and Ralph. And we're all Rush fans, and we're a great Rush community, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in and checking us out. As always, you like what we're doing? Please please subscribe, share. You can support us on Kofi. You can look at our sponsors, buy our merch. So many things you can do, and all that is just right down below. And we do want to give because we do really appreciate what you all do, whether it's commenting, whether it's donating, just tuning in. We appreciate you all so much. And there was one viewer, um, and I'm going to butcher the screen name, but YKMGD made a generous Kofi donation, and we appreciate that. I mean, whether it's hey, $10 is $10, or a dime or whatever. We're very grateful to the Rush community and the Rush fans community that check us out. So, without further ado, let's jump in to Faithless. What a powerful song. I'm so glad to be a part of this episode. As host, I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut most of the time. But as I see the look on your face, Paul.
It's easier said than done, right, Dave?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but everybody has a lot of great things to say. So um, let's read this for. Well, let's talk about the intro. Anybody want to talk about the musical intro because it's a little different in tempo and whatnot. Yeah,
You mean the idea of it being a slightly slower song?
yeah, yeah.
You mean the idea of it being in 6/4 and that Lifeson's playing kind of a bit of a D power chordy pentatonic sort of riff that's kind of straightforward rock? You mean talk about that stuff?
That's exactly
That's the
what I mean.
I
stuff.
suppose we could do that.
Yeah.
I think I already did. So, but yeah, it's yeah, like so what six what I actually charted it out for myself earlier just because I sometimes do that and haven't done that too much lately. But yeah, it's like basically he had at the beginning a one measure phrase that he just played six times and then kicked into basically some bigger bar chords. At that point, he's just a little bit away from the Lifeson chord in so much as the Lifeson chord is an F sharp 11, which people often will mistakenly say F sharp 7 add 4. What's an 11? Sus4. No, there's the major thirds there. In this case, he plays an F chord, F bar chord with the open B, which winds up being a sharped 11. So at that point, it's an F with an added sharped 11. So that's kind of a nice little touch. Then just A5, just a power chord basically. So he's keeping it simple at that point. But yeah, it's like it's kind of just the album begins with that F sharp 11, and here we are towards the back end of this album, and he's sort of like, what if I take it down a half step? Not too bad. It's his album. He can do what he wants.
Variation on a theme.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment on the intro at all, or shall we jump into Neil's lyric genius?
Sounds
It's
like
not
we're
as
ready for
exciting.
genius.
It's a lot of, and not as exciting as a lot of Rush songs, but it fits the mood, fits the lyrics.
Yeah,
it does, and it fits the album so well. I've read in a lot of Neil's books on this tour and his motorcycle riding throughout the countryside and whatnot. They would look at billboards and marquees with evangelical messages on them, right? And so throughout the Midwest and where I'm from, Indiana, uh, there were just so many things that Neil was looking at that kind of spoke to this album because you were also dealing with, um, uh, again, this was 2007. He was, during the tour 2007, 2008 was looking at how the Middle East and the Middle West and how fundamentalist religion in particular, um, was so much in sort of the national consciousness
Well,
at the
yeah. I
time, for
mean,
lack of a better way to put it.
at that point, you could certainly speak to the idea that, when they were touring for Vapor Trails for 2002 and in any bit of traveling in three, I mean, this album, obviously they were writing it in what, five or six. So yeah, I mean, with in the U.S., obviously with George W. Bush's presence, the religious right really took on a new role that is kind of you have these hintings back in the 80s and whatnot, and a certain
Mhm.
presence there, and yeah, by 20 years ago, which is kind of sick to say 20 years ago, as we all
Seems like
crumble into
yesterday.
dust. Yeah, but yeah, clearly at that point, you definitely had a lot more of that on display while Neil was riding his bike around.
Yeah. And I think it's important to point out too, if we're talking about a song called Faithless, as Donna Halper has said many times, Neil was not anti-religion.
Right.
His parents faithfully went to church, I'm told, Glenn and Betty. But he was anti anything. If you look at her most recent blog post on the song Free Will, it's anything that doesn't allow you to think for yourself. That was what, bothered Neil a lot. So when he's faithless, okay, I'm a philosopher, apparently. Um, got a degree in that. Uh, Jacques Derrida, French philosopher, that said that I quite rightly pass for an atheist. And of course, Derrida was always very not vague as much as he wanted to keep things open ended. And he was an atheist to a certain kind of conception of God, right? He was anti-God or whatever. And I think Neil was the same in a lot of ways. That's just my take. I may be understanding Neil entirely wrong.
Yeah.
And as an atheist myself, um, I'm not pushing any idea of God, but to be fair, to be open, it seemed that faithless is about a particular being faithless about a particular kind of faith that he doesn't have. So, what did I say about not talking? I'm
You
failing
said that
already.
you
Dude,
said that's
Yeah,
a ridiculous concept.
what happened?
Yeah.
that was out the window 2 minutes ago. So it's all good.
Yeah. Thanks
Well,
for
I think
thanks for noticing, Paul.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't want to cut you off and get the episode started, but so it's all
So
good stuff.
Get it
let's
rolling.
read some lyrics.
All right.
I've got my own moral compass to steer by, my own, not something somebody else gave to me. A guiding star beats a spirit in the sky. That's probably very loaded with his own experiences. And all the preaching voices, empty vessels, ring so loud as they move among the crowd. Fools and thieves are well disguised in the temple and marketplace, in the temple and marketplace. Roundtable.
I'm going to change. You kind of changed my mind on what this song is about. I kind of saw it as just a direct shot at religion, kind of like free will. I think the way the wind blows is like that. But now I think it's maybe a little more of a slightly his spiritual influence from his parents. Maybe it's just more, I guess, accusatory, saying, "All right, Christians, I know," and I'll get to it later when we get to the specific lines of the scripture that he references. But he's saying, "This is what your scripture says. Why aren't you doing this? I do this without." Without the spirituality, I do it because it's what I think is right. You have the spiritual aspect of it. Why aren't you doing these things that your Bible teaches is the right thing to do?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of like great imagery in this song. So specifically the line like a guiding star beats the spirit in the sky. Like the star he can see, in the sky, but this, invisible God or whoever in the sky is just something you believe in. You don't know it's there. It's just, his fact versus his someone else's belief.
I also feel like he's kind of foreshadowing his own concept with Clockwork Angels too, because you just think about, and obviously for anyone who hasn't read the book at this point, I'm looking at the panel, I'm looking over at Paul's window. Anyone who hasn't read the Clockwork Angels book, the idea.
Look.
The accusatory view down on the panel there that basically, he has the main character kind of out in the wilderness himself, much like Neil was, as far as the idea of, the guiding star. There's a whole issue with the marketplace in the Paul, you got to read the book, in the city that he goes to. So I just think it's interesting, not just for the sake of the obvious message, or even the messages that we could glean from it, but it just has me thinking also of his own lyrics, forward and backward, basically. The temples of Syrinx, the temple leaders in Syrinx were pretty heavy-handed about we control everything, and you guys are going to do this and not do this. And that sort of speaks to the notion of, you put these individuals in power, says the person who lives in the United States in 2025, and they want to really grab that power, hold that power, solidify their power, and make sure everyone else is living in a subjugated life, holding up the red star proudly high in hand.
Believe this, don't believe that. Read this, we'll ban that.
Yeah.
Just like smashing the guitar in 2112, because we couldn't bring that kind of individuality and creativity back.
And again, that's why Neil, in his mind, was not friend to any god or government.
Excellent. Anybody else on this opening
that
verse?
imagery there, the star, guiding star and the spirit in the sky, kind of makes me think of the celestial voice from Free Will. And I think it's part of the genius of these lyrics that the line, excuse me, the line, "the empty vessels ring so loud," is a line from Henry V, from Shakespeare, that goes, I did never know so full a voice issue from so empty a heart. But the saying is true, the empty vessel makes the greatest sound. And it's cool that he's kind of quoting Shakespeare. But the other cool thing that makes his genius is that line is it's a rephrasing the first part of the chapter of First Corinthians, where the lyrics on the chorus come from. And I'll get to that when we get to the chorus, the similarities there. But I just think it's cool. He's quoting Shakespeare, and Shakespeare was referencing, I think, the same verse, the same biblical chapter that he's referencing in the chorus.
Excellent. Yeah. And also I think from Neil's trips, even throughout Africa and throughout canyons and back roads and the stars that he saw and everything else. I mean, his encounter and experience with nature informs so much the way he crafted his lyrics too. So, yeah. So, and I love the fools and thieves are well disguised, right? They've got the right suit, the right shoes. You too can have prosperity like us if you just donate.
And the halo effect, right? One of the songs from Clockwork Angels. That's where you see, isn't that the effect? Someone in a suit or that looks official, you put a little more faith, a little more trust in them. Maybe you had something there.
That's what's great about Neil's lyrics. There's so many themes that weave in and out, but always say new things or placing them in a different context. Yeah, excellent. So, like a stone in the river, and these parts of the verses, I think, are the heart of the song. Like a stone in the river against the floods of spring, I will quietly resist. I will quietly resist. Like the willows in the wind, or the cliffs along the ocean, I will quietly resist. I will quietly resist. Power packed.
For my money, I would look at especially the willow imagery, but also to a certain extent the stone imagery. To me, that kind of often it draws my mind to certain more Asian philosophical or religious viewpoints, which inform Asian martial arts, as far as if you're involved with certain styles, whether it's Tai Chi or Aikido, the notion of allowing someone's energy to move past, and maybe if you are going to counter them, you're using their energy against them. But in this case, the idea of the quiet resist, the notion that essentially, the water's going past him, he's resisting, he's not putting up a fight, but just letting it do what it's going to do and step off. And then same as the willows or obviously the cliffs in the ocean, to me that's a little different because I just think of one of the Frank Lloyd Wright houses that's on Lake Erie. There's a gantry that goes from what was at one point the beach, but is now way out in the lake up to the cliffside. So in 100 years, that cliff was kind of worn away by the lake, not necessarily an ocean. So to me, it's kind of like willows, yes. Stones in the river, yes. Cliff, can take some damage, but
What I thought of is, I've been to the Oregon coast, and on the Atlantic coast, you go to the beach and there's the ocean. On the Oregon coast, there are a lot of cliffs. You don't just walk to the beach. You have to walk down a lot of steps to get to the beach. And when you talk about, the king tides that they refer to in Oregon, or some of the big waves, they'll hit those cliffs hard. I mean, if you're a human and you're down there, you're done for. Powerful. But they're just there. They take this again and again and again and again, and the cliffs remain. And I think quietly resist is somewhat of a juxtaposition to all the preaching voices, all the loudness.
Yeah.
He's not going to return loudness for loudness. He's just going to quietly resist. And like the willow, like the stone, like the cliffs along the coast.
Like the wind is all these voices yelling at him, and then he's just, I'm just gonna still be here. I'm not moving. You might knock me over a little bit, but I'm still gonna stand right back up.
Yeah, it's a kind of resistance that's long term, slow burn. It's going to be there.
Right. He's not right. He's not going to yell back because that's not going to change anybody's mind. He's just going to live the way he thinks he should live.
And I think he's also hinting at some resilience being required, that it can the willow and the wind and the cliffs, they've been resisting a long time, so it could take some time.
Yeah. And sometimes they do get broken down a little bit, right? They change, but they're still there, regardless. And we've made connections to other records. I kind of think of Clockwork Angels, with Quietly Resist. Yeah, thank your stars, you're not that way. All
it just occurred to me while you were talking, Dave. I kept wondering, why is he quietly resisting? And then it finally occurred to me, it's because the loud voices come from the empty vessels. He's not going to be like them. He's going to do his own thing and resist quietly.
I've often said I never do political stuff on my social media. And every time I do, I'm reminded why I don't.
Yeah.
It's just pointless threads and there's no real conversation. So I think Neil might be saying, or at least I could be reading into what Neil's saying, my own experience, that I'm not going to yell back.
Talk about water smashing into a cliff.
Yeah. Like I said, if you're a human, the water's going to smash you. That's for certain. Between the water and the cliff. So chorus. And this is, man, wow, here we go. I don't have faith in faith. Beautiful line. I don't believe in belief. You can call me faithless. You can call me faithless. And here's your 1 Corinthians 13. But I still cling to hope. And I believe in love. And that's faith enough for me. That's faith enough for me.
So before we hyperanalyze this one, actually, I find it's very similar to the chorus in Ghost of a Chance.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Wow. I don't even know what else to say now.
And so I was looking it up, and it's very kind of similar. I don't believe in destiny or the guiding hand of fate. I don't believe in forever. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels. But I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love and make it last. So it's kind of like almost the same theme, I guess,
Yeah.
But I still cling to hope and I believe in love.
And
That's the one thing he believes in.
Yeah, and stop me, Shane, if you were going to make this point.
Go right ahead.
But 1 Corinthians 13, faith, hope, love. That's the thing. But the greatest of these is love. So I believe there's a ghost of a chance. Yeah, we could find somebody to love and make it last. So
Yeah, he spends, what is it, 12 maybe chapter, or in the Bible, not Neil. In First Corinthians, there's 12 or so chapters talking about you can have this faith, but without love, it's useless. Or you can have this hope, but without love, it's useless. And then finally at the end, like David said, the greatest of these is love. And I think that's his way of saying, I'll buy into your hope and I'll buy into your faith. I mean, I'm sorry, I'll buy into your love, but I'm resisting your faith because, I've got, like I said earlier, I've got my guiding star. I just have that. You have your guiding stars and you have the Bible telling you to do these things and you're not. And that's why I'm resisting it. And I'm saying that I don't want to come up as Dave's our atheist. I'll be the Christian. I'm the Christian in the group.
I used to be
others.
one of those, and I have great respect. I'm not the hostile atheist. So.
Well, and I don't want to, because I'm making it. I know I don't want to come across as anti-Christian because I'm saying that he's asking us to hold ourselves more accountable, and I agree with him that as a Christian we should hold ourselves more accountable to do these things that the Bible tells us to do, versus being judgmental. As a conservative, I think we need to hold ourselves more accountable instead of worrying about what the Democrats are doing. And I think that's what he's saying. I'm rejecting your faith because you have it and you're still not doing the right thing. So why should I have it? It's a good message.
Mm-hmm.
We'll listen.
It is. Yeah. And really, from certain Christian perspectives, a profoundly Christian message, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the New Testament is a lot about love. So that sums it up. That verse right there, the greatest of these is love. Yeah. By the way, also a really good King's X album, Faith, Hope, Love. One of my favorites.
Little name drop, right?
But I don't know them or anything. But
I just loved how in this chorus he brought those three together: faith, hope, and love. And even though you can call me faithless, he wants to say, I have the hope, right? I have the love, but I still have faith. But singing the hope, believing in love, that's faith enough for me. Maybe it's kind of almost of a, I have the true faith, but Neil would never say that, I don't think.
No.
But kind of what, Shane, you were saying is your faith says this, your sacred text says this. Why aren't you doing it? And not only why aren't you doing it, why are you doing things that are expressly contrary to it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure in the comments, there could be a million different ways, everyone knows everything and no one's ever wrong until later. Show don't tell. Everybody knows what sacred texts say. Right.
Look forward to reading it.
Yeah. But hey, and we want to say comment civilly, respectfully. Let's have some spirited debate, but like to hear your perspectives, because somehow out of that sort of dialogue and different perspectives, we all can kind of gain something we didn't have before, depending on what particular place we're coming from. Right. So people comment a lot. We love that so much. We read them, So, okay. I've got my own spirit level for balance to tell me if my choice is leading up or down. And all the shouting voices try to throw me off my course. Some by sermons, some by force. Fools and thieves are dangerous in the temple and marketplace, in the temple and marketplace. How could Neil, in 8 lines, say so much?
Poet.
Roundtable.
I think if one thing I get from that is often atheists are considered to have no morals or they don't, what I'm saying. But he doesn't need, these other texts to know what's right and wrong for him, So, if you follow the Bible or whatever religious text you're doing, you know, even if he doesn't do it, he can still be, a good person, obviously.
Well, that's one of the other kind of arguments is that if you need a book that gives you a fear of reprisal when you die to be a good person, you're not a good person. If you don't believe that book is anything more than just a book that was written by a bunch of men over the course of thousands of years, and you're still a good person, you're probably a good person. That's one of the ideas of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
makes
Ralph,
me think.
I'm sorry.
Ralph, you remind me of my old friend. I need to get back in touch with him.
No,
He's
yeah.
my old friend Doug, an atheist, and I always said one of the most Christian people I know is an atheist. He is so kind, so giving, so loving, would give you the shirt off his back, and had his own moral compass, his own spirit level for balance.
Yeah, that tracks on what I was thinking. It was Richard Dawkins who kind of made the point Alex did, that if you're only good because of fear of hell, then are you really good? But one of the problems I think we have in the dialogue of, what in the Catholic Church, John Paul II, when he was Pope, would often say, "To all people of goodwill," right? And so, but the new atheists, your Dawkins, Hitchens, Harris, for whatever value they bring, are so polarizing between religion and atheism, and all religion is reduced to its worst fundamentalist forms, and that's that. And I think that causes a difficulty of discourse between all people of goodwill, regardless of where we're coming from. Christian standpoint, atheist standpoint, Islamic standpoint, Hindu standpoint, wherever, we're all where we're at, right? So, I feel like the new atheists tend to obfuscate or obscure the possibility of dialogue, and nobody's allowed to be wrong, right? I'm right, you're wrong. End of story, But if you're thinking, I had a professor once say during my undergrad, if you're never wrong, you're never thinking. Because when you venture out into thinking, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to be wrong. And so let's talk and help try to make each other less wrong,
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
Cool.
Throw back the caress of steel.
Listen.
I caught
That's what that song was about. Listen, I get it now.
It all makes sense.
Parents and teachers, didacts,
and narpets.
Teachers and parents, didacts, and narpets, and they're all telling you what to think. But like a flower in the desert that only blooms at night, I will quietly.
You skipped. You went ahead. Yes, you did, my friend.
No, I thought I did. I did the I don't have faith in faith. Yeah.
Like a forest bows to winter beneath the deep white silence.
Paul, that probably makes you feel really good that you
have no clue.
We finally got you.
Oh, you have no idea,
okay.
Dave.
Let's back up. I was such a pain.
I'm the one with
when we were in Canada, Toronto together. And I think he still wants to just make me suffer for how I made him suffer.
That's why I don't need the Roar Clockwork Angels. He gave me the 5 minutes version, so it's all good. On our trip from St. Catharines back to Toronto.
Books may be for tourists, but read the book.
Fine.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
No worries.
I am correctable. Like a forest house into winter. Beneath the deep white silence, I will quietly resist. Like the forest bows to winter, beneath the deep white silence. Makes me think of when I grew up in Indiana and actually had snow. In Texas, we don't get a deep white silence.
We do
that
not.
often. But again, it's the same theme, quietly resisting. So Neil, being in, obviously Canadian, seeing a lot of heavy snowfall and would see a forest bow to winter. But when
And that
winter's
can be
gone, the forest is
literal.
going to be back.
Can be literal if a leaf is keeping or a tree is keeping its foliage as the snow piles on. It does clean. I've had to go knock
Yeah.
snow off of trees before. Well, once, once when it snowed here in Texas, I had to go knock the snow off the tree because I was afraid it was going to break. Younger tree, I was afraid it was going to break the branches if I didn't remove some of the weight.
Yeah. Especially when we get our ice storms here.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to
Yes.
start talking ice storm, then you're going to talk about things snapping.
That gets heavy. Yeah.
We're not challenging winter to the Canadian, are we?
No.
Because you live a bit closer to
We-
the ocean, so I mean, you're
Yeah,
not talking
so-
like Laurentian mountains here.
No, true. I've got 3 inches of ice in my driveway right now. You want to come help me chip it out?
I would have to actually work through the foot of snow outside my door.
I'll take a foot of snow over snow turned to rain any day of the week.
Well, we had that Sunday.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, moving on.
So we interrupt our pissing contest to return to our
Which you can see in that much snow very easily.
Don't
right.
eat the yellow
right.
snow.
You don't eat the yellow snow. Yeah. We have fun here, Rush fans.
Oh, we have to.
Yeah. So back to the chorus. I don't have faith in faith. I don't believe in belief. You can call me faithless. You can call me faithless, but I still cling to hope and I believe in love. And that's faith enough for me. And that's faith enough for me. So we've already commented on that, but it's just a return to that theme. Does anybody else have anything they want to offer?
It's the Donna Halper rule. If it's just super important, he repeats it.
Yeah.
Also,
Hi, Donna.
earlier today, I was watching the Snakes and Arrows performance of this, and I was thinking it's sort of like, oh yeah, Lifeson was singing on those choruses too, which obviously he sometimes did throughout their career, but not so much. So clearly, for whatever reason, he and Geddy, or as a collective, they just thought, hey, why don't you join in on these? It's just I just thought it was kind of an interesting bit of I'm being really articulate today, so you know what I'm talking about.
When Alex does sing, you have to listen real close because it's not like major harmonies between him and Geddy. It's a little below kind of the main thing that Geddy is doing, but it's there.
The sound tech just keeps it really low.
like Linda McCartney low.
Or Yoko Ono, just cut off the mic.
Keep Al real low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, back to what I jumped ahead to now that we're there.
Wow.
Like a flower in the desert. Oh, wait, no. We're not there yet. We got to talk about the solo.
Oh, my gosh, David.
What's there to say?
Don't forget the solo.
Okay, Paul Simon, when you see this, you'll never ask me to host again, will you?
It's all good.
We'll show him.
Yeah.
Well, see, it's like
you
I
had,
don't want to
you
host,
had one
man.
job. You had one
Hosting
job.
is a lot of work, man. So I'm, when I am forced to do it, I screw it up, so they won't ask me to do it again.
Yet here we are. Anyway,
and here we
Alex,
are.
you tried hard enough.
We're at the solo, and what a beautiful melodic Alex Lifeson classic solo it is.
16 measures, comes in with a pickup measure, not truck. Got that low and those kind of low notes with a little bit of sustain on them. Moves up. I mean, it's kind of like, he did come up with that kind of like classic, or he didn't come up with it, but he was using that kind of the classic solo idea of notes. They're low, they're held, they're long, move it into the mid range, add a little more 16th action here and there for some bursts, and take it up higher to the end of that Les Paul with the Floyd on it, and bring in some more 16ths. Oddly enough, overall it does have its pentatonic state of mind, but the chord progression did have like an A7 harmony with a C next to it. So C major and A7 don't really go together naturally, which makes it for a more interesting progression, and then makes his solo have to reach for some notes that don't necessarily go together right away. So, yeah, the
That,
pentatonic vibe, but chords that fit. Sorry, I was about
I
to
was going to
talk
say
over.
that's Alex. That's what he
Yeah.
does. He does things that aren't supposed to work, and he makes them work.
Well, even back to Fly By Night, when I mean, to me, the Fly By Night song was fairly derivative, and in that I don't say that in a negative way at all, because they were still like 20 basically. They were still kids when they were doing this. So at that point, you are copying your heroes. But I mean, the riff that was the four measure phrase, he had a couple of non-diatonic chord movements, and then his solo was basically B minor pentatonic, but he threw in the right note adjustments for those chords he's playing over that weren't in the key. So
It's
yeah,
E
it's,
minor
it's
pentatonic.
B as in Bravo.
Oh, okay. I thought you said E minor. I've
No,
been
no.
playing it in B all these
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Another
Yeah,
thing I'm screwing up on.
I'm always ready for some NATO phonetic type of lettering, because I say that to so many people over the course of a week, where it's like, B as in baseball and a D as in dinosaur, just because all these letters sound the same. It's like, what do I play? You know, B as in Batman, F as in fire truck. I don't know. I got nothing. But yes, 16 measure solo, classic Lifeson, well done.
Builds, it starts out, you're just flowing. You're almost like,
He's following his changes.
just rowing down, the lake, and
And
then
that
it gets a
live,
little intense.
yeah, I mean, when you think of a solo, like, you can sit here and just you can just play it at home, but you think of the effect he had on it, like on the Snakes and Arrows, the video I watched, a few hours ago. I thought, it's like, is he actually using more of a fuzz pedal? Because that had more of a fuzz sound than I've usually
Mm.
associated with, well, literally anything he's ever played. So I just thought it's kind of interesting. Made me want to investigate that a little more but whatever. I'd like to know more about these verses,
Well,
because
let's do it.
I think people want me to stop talking.
Never.
That's usually what they say about me. Um, like a flower in the desert that only blooms at night. And you think deserts, like during the day, are super hot, but they can get really cool and cold at night. So, like a flower in the desert that only blooms at night, I will quietly resist that line again. So it's just another image or metaphor that Neil uses to express kind of the same point, right?
And I
Flowers
think
blooming.
this might be one of my favorite lyrics from Neil. In fact, so but even before I was on the Rush fans admin, I had submitted a request to Rush lyrics for this line, and they did it. I printed it out, and I hang it on my refrigerator at home.
Oh, that's
That's
So,
cool. That's
yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, and Hugh, has great artwork that really captures that, the flower that's defying all logic, like you said, at night in a desert, and it blooms, just a
Well, this
little
might be a
rebellious.
good place
The Hugh
to
Syme
do the
artwork.
artwork.
Yeah, the Hugh Syme artwork on this is absolutely stunning.
Yeah. And I'm not as smart as Paul on screen sharing.
You mean
He-
Paul
Paul
Simon?
Simon.
Yeah,
We have
Paul
faith.
Simon.
you
Yeah.
need to separate. Like, please do not lump me as in this. Other than the
The
first
other
name,
Paul.
that's yeah. Thank you.
I think of Die Hard. What were the names of the FBI agents?
No,
No, the other one.
something Johnson, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me see here.
What's the other one? My name is Larry. This is my brother Daryl. My other brother Daryl.
Yeah, there we
Bob,
go.
Bob Newhart show.
Okay,
Right?
so
Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
it's
Newhart.
but
There it
here's
is.
the flower. Yeah,
Yep.
it's blooming at night. You know, things are dark, but there's some moonlight, and of course, all the lyrics we've been talking about. But again, the genius and brilliance of Hugh Syme to in an image capture. That's what's great. It's like Neil wrote these lyrics, Geddy now captured the heart and the mood of the lyrics in their music, and Hugh Syme was able to do it in his artwork. Uh, so just a beautiful symphony of talent brought all the things they did together. And then we have a chorus and the Donna Halper rule. Thank you, Paul C. Paul Simon, for pointing out the Donna Halper rule that if it gets repeated, it's kind of like, the word therefore. When you see the word therefore in a sentence, you might want to go back and see what it's there for.
Thank you.
What precedes it?
So yeah, so it's preceded. I don't have faith in faith. I don't believe in belief. Okay, he made that point. And of course, when he says I don't believe in belief, he's talking about a particular kind of belief. I don't have faith in faith, particular kind of faith. So you can call me faithless, just like I mentioned earlier, Jacques Derrida. I quite rightly pass for an atheist, but only an atheist to a particular kind of faith. You can call me faithless, but I still cling to hope. I think any person of goodwill would go, that's probably a good thing to do, you know, and, hope in the future and believe in the goodness of humanity. Let's go to counterparts and, nobody's hero. And I believe in love. If you don't love, what do you got? And that's faith enough for me. What is faith enough for me? Hope and love. And then they throw in, he says, Geddy sings it twice. So that's faith enough for me, and that's faith enough for me. And then one more time, and that's faith enough for me. And that we move into the end of the song. Closing thoughts, comments. There's so much more.
I thought I saw a video or an interview with Geddy, and he said this is one of his favorite songs.
Yeah, he said that in the concert too, like right as he was announcing that they were about to play it.
Like this is one of his,
Yeah.
One of his faves. Yeah.
Was what he said there, yeah. He said that in Faithless and The Way the Wind Blows. One of our faves.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not one of the most, bombastic grab you songs from Rush, but it is one of my personal favorites. It really, I feel it in, my soul, like I can really relate to this.
Yeah.
This is one of those. I'm the same way. Like the song didn't blow me away at first, but then you really listen to the lyrics and you kind of go, "Oh, okay." Now it's got but it's got a deeper meaning in a different way. Like it's not a hard rock, like Far Cry, just blow you out of the, you fall off your chair. This is more. It's a slower tempo, right? Like it's purposely done, but it's just the words have so much meaning, and it's one of the great songs in the album.
Yeah. I think it's lovely that it follows the instrumental Hope that was the previous episode.
Almost like there's a method to their madness. Almost.
They planned the whole thing.
They know what they're doing. They're professionals.
It's only their 18th studio album.
Yeah, they're starting to get it.
I know what they're doing.
They're starting to figure some shit out.
Getting the process down.
But it's so funny. You could go back to the early albums and see the same themes, but a maturing of how they understand those themes and how they articulate them.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Growing up.
The kids are growing up.
Yeah.
I think it's Monty Python. What's it like?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Say no more.
I just turned 60, and I know I neither look it or act it. And people say, you don't look 60. I don't act it. That's my secret.
There's a method to your madness.
Yeah. A lot of madness. And, has nothing to do with anything, but I got to go shout out to my friend Mark Moss, who provided 3 hours of live music to that. And he did do my autistic son's favorite song is Fly By Night. And so Mark did Fly By Night for him.
Nice.
Cheers.
Monster musician here in DFW.
That's Dallas Fort Worth area for your non-American friends.
Well, the non-American friend already knew it.
Even I knew that. Even I knew that what that meant.
So hey, everybody must know. Ooh,
we wrapping this up or not?
Text from Paul later.
Oh, Paul Simon's going to be ripping at you. Come on, wrap it up.
I was talking about you, man. Again,
it's all good.
We have fun here in Rush fans because the cool thing about being Rush-like is you could just have fun, joke, but at the end of the day, we all love this band and or that Rush community. And we thank all you folks for watching, for tuning in. Again, please share. There are lots of Rush fans out there that don't know about Rush fans. Help them find out. So much great Rush content on the interwebs, and we like to think we're a small part of that. So share, comment. Please comment. Let's have a conversation and a discussion. Love to hear the various viewpoints that you all have. And thanks to Alex and Shane and Paul C. and Ralph. What a great conversation, as always. And until next time, we're going to continue on. We're almost done with Snakes and Arrows. So, got a few more songs to do. So, tune in and let us know what you think. But until then, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.